Welcome back to Chasing Common Ground. I had to make a quick pivot of video platforms, but I am proud and excited to bring back to the show Tim Gourlay, who was last on the show, if I remember correctly, in like 2018, which will kind of pay tribute to just how much has happened in that time and just how much of a legacy guest he's been. You've been here since the beginning. It's great to have you on, and I'm looking forward to helping our audience kind of catch up with what you've been up to since. So how are you doing today, Tim?
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Chris. I'm doing great. Today's a great
Perfect.
day for a great day.
So I was reflecting on like the setting, the scenery of where we were at last time we recorded. It was during the time you were set up inside the vacant spot inside of the Kingsway Mall. And I remember we kind of like set up a table in the middle of there, and I had brought my microphone, which is ironic because we had some microphone issues today. But I had brought an old microphone. I had like a USB cord that didn't work. And then we had to switch to recording on a phone. And I think we actually did most of the podcast on an Instagram live to salvage the audio. And on that episode, if I remember correctly, I think there was a lot of news that you were sharing at the time. It was like November 2018 or something like that. So a lot that has happened since in your life hadn't happened yet. And so why don't you just kind of like story tell for us a little bit, bring us up to speed on what's happened since that interview?
Sure. Well, during that interview, that was the first month of our FitSet Ninja Warrior activation, which the goal was this was a marketing activity that we were doing to create mass awareness in the city of Edmonton for our FitSet Pass program. This is something that I've been working on since 2014, and it had grown in membership, but it wasn't working out financially. And this ninja obstacle course set up in Kingsway Mall was our last ditch effort to create awareness for this service and get enough members to keep it going.
Yeah.
And so that goal was not accomplished. We didn't get enough members to keep the FitSet Pass going, Edmonton's multi-studio fitness pass, my first entrepreneurial venture. But when we opened up our doors over those first few months, we had hundreds, thousands of families, kids, teams, schools coming to visit us to try out the Ninja Obstacle course because they had heard of the TV show and watched the TV show American Ninja Warrior, or they just wanted to try it out because it was something new in Edmonton. And that was really the turning point in my business where we started learning more at that point about the sport of ninja worldwide and its growth, not just in Canada, but in countries around the world, with organizations trying to get it into the Olympics. And was really kind of the ending point for the FitSet Pass product, where I reached out to a big competitor in the States called ClassPass and worked with them to give a clean handoff of my studio partners, and was the start of forming the original team and crystallization of the vision for FitSet Ninja, which is to be the team that turns ninja obstacle sports mainstream right across Canada. So yeah, a couple months after that, our temporary lease at Kingsway ended. We found our permanent location where I'm at right now. And that was almost 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And like in the time that's happened since, like I think your family has grown in that period of time. Like there's been a lot of change that's happened. So like what has changed in how you see yourself? What is your life like now that you would have never expected back in that 2018 version of yourself?
Yeah, 2018, November 2018, that would have been some 2 months before I had Clara, my daughter, my first child. And man, what was my life like back then? Well, it was a lot of working at all hours of the time, all hours of the day, late into the evenings. I remember when we were first going, I was often there in the evenings with the coaches, with the athletes, training myself as a ninja. And ever since the kids came, that's been bedtime and family time. My wife Katerina works as well, so just like the time during the day where I'm working on the business versus family was kind of a big shift. But also having a family, having kids has created a sense of urgency and productivity where I find I'm a lot more productive with my time. So when I am away from my family and I'm working, I feel like I can get to work a lot quicker and I'm able to prioritize the things that make the biggest impact versus just working for the sake of working.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think a lot of people get caught up in that. I almost think it's like something that people need to experience not doing things perfectly so that they can sort out for themselves what is the most effective way for them to do something, just as long as they're open to feedback. Like sometimes people do the same thing and get the same outcome and they'll think it's somebody else's fault. But then in other cases, people will do something, it won't work the first time. Somebody will give them some feedback or guidance, or maybe they'll kind of like see the signs for themselves and they make some adjustments and they're able to kind of like start moving forward in a progressive direction. So, one of the other things that I want to make sure that we bring up, because what I found is so many times people will ask me if I know somebody who has a thing. And I almost always know a person who has a thing, and that thing is turf. So I want to talk about your turf business. We kind of I've talked to you about the story of how it started so many times, but honestly, I don't think my audience really understands like how it started. And I want to lean more heavily into what made you realize it was kind of like a business model to the degree to what it is now. Like it's one thing, like I've resold Apple computers in the past and it's given me a profit, or I've resold like old video games and stuff, but I haven't turned that into like a business model. But here you've gone and you've actually like established a business based off of turf sales and perhaps some like aligned products to do with that. So let's dig into that a bit.
Yeah. Thanks for asking, Chris. And the premise behind the turf was just the ability for me to um, allow myself to go with the flow and pull on this string that came. And I'll give you the backstory. We were about a year and a half into Fitset Ninja. This was 2020, and the pandemic came and the gym closed down. We went from just really finally getting into the swing of things in the business, moved into our current permanent location out of Kingsway, had formed our core team, and we're just getting in rhythm. And COVID happened and everything went to zero. And a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear in the business community. And at that point, I really just had this mantra in my head that I was going to find an opportunity in the adversity. And we thought, let's clean up the gym. There's no one in here. We don't get an opportunity to like move all the mats and do like a deep clean reorganization. And we had this old piece of turf that we were like, let's just get rid of this, threw it out by the dumpster. And I looked at it. I'm like, you know what? Maybe someone will want this. My wife sells little knickknacks, things on Facebook Marketplace all the time. So I took my phone out, took a photo, posted it on Marketplace. And in 24 hours, there was 30 messages of people wanting little pieces of this turf, and ended up cutting it up for these people, generated a few $1,000s from selling it. And I just took a mental note. I said, wow, that was kind of easy. There was quite a demand for it. And a few weeks later, I was just scrolling the internet during COVID times, looking at an online auction, and the city of Leduc was auctioning off a full soccer field of turf. And I went on. I was the highest bidder, $5,000 for 15,000 square feet of turf. And we rented some U-Hauls. We went out, we chopped it up into pieces that we could fit in the U-Hauls, brought it back to the gym, put it up on Marketplace, and we tripled our money. A month after that, there was a soccer complex in the city doing the same thing, getting rid of their old turf. I was the first one on there. I snatched it up, got the turf. We did the same thing. And over those few months of people buying turf, there were people that came in and were like, you know what? I'm looking for something a little bit different. I'm looking for some longer turf, or I'm looking for a bigger roll. So we got on Alibaba. We put out a request for quotation, and about 20 different suppliers came back to us with prices. We got a bunch of samples, and we just said, okay, we like this one, that one, and that one. We sent our money to China. A sea container came a couple months after, and we started selling.
Yeah.
And that sold. And so we got 2 sea containers, and then we got 4 sea containers. And that was how the turf business originally started, was during the pandemic, where we just thought, okay, we got to do something. We got to like figure out some way to make some money. And just by luck, we saw that the market was looking for this turf, and just pulled on that string.
Yeah, I like it. So as you've kind of refined yourself and developed, because I've seen the evolution of you over the past few years, like how you've gotten more like more focused, more dialed in, more like you almost set yourself up so that people can grow around you, which is like it's a very nuanced skill. Sometimes people want to do everything by themselves and it can kind of cannibalize a team. Whereas I have seen how you've been able to kind of like delegate things more, even just like the subtle things, like allowing somebody to kind of like oversee some of your appointments, but then also like building leaders within your team. And in that process, have you ever had any reflections where you looked back on like the version of you from like 2010 or 2000 and thought like, I'm glad that I learned that because it really helped me now?
Well, I've always known that I've wanted to build something bigger, much bigger than myself. And um, yeah, from 2010, from my early days of starting FitSet Ninja, um, I was always so resource constrained, just in startup mode, trying to get things off the ground. That the fear of bringing on additional people, being responsible for other people, being responsible for other people financially to provide for them, that fear always held me back from adding more people to the team. Where yeah, I would try to do everything, and yeah, really realized as the company started to grow, and as more people wanted to help, and I could sense that hey, there was a lot of alignment in terms of like where we were going and the vision in the company, that there was a ceiling. There was literally only so much stuff that I could do, and I knew that I would never be able to grow the company to where I wanted to be without building a leadership team around me. And yeah, what I've learned through this process is that for a lot of the stuff that for most of the stuff that we're doing in the company, the team's able to do it better than I am, and I'm able to focus on the things that really light me up and give me energy and I enjoy doing, and I'm able to do those things better. Where others are able to do the things that they really enjoy and do it at a much better level than I'd be able to do it myself, because it's not my thing.
Mm-hmm. I've gotten to be part of a lot of different businesses and kind of seen how people have sort of like worked out their leadership structure, their delegation structure, or kind of like the train of thought that they use to make critical decisions. I have a few questions, and the first one is, what is the most unexpected place that you've found someone that then became a part of your leadership team or just a part of your team in general?
The most unexpected place?
Yeah. Like, it doesn't have to be like wildly unexpected, but like you get people that apply through the various
Yeah.
job boards, etc. Was there someone that was kind of like an outlier?
Yeah. Well, yeah, what's coming to mind is a guy named Paul from Calgary who I first met when I would have been in grade 11 or 12, going to watch the national championships at Red Deer College. Or yeah, they were at Grant MacEwan, but Red Deer College was playing in the finals, and there were all these college guys in Burger King crowns going cheering on their team. And there was this one guy that was just like the ringleader of it all. And I realized after the fact that was the Red Deer College basketball team. And I just remembered this big guy just with a ton of energy cheering on the Kings, just being the big hype man. And fast forward to college, I went to Red Deer College and got to know some of the basketball players. And this guy's name was Paul. And we became friends over my career at Red Deer. He was at the U of A as well. And we stayed in touch and then got out of touch after university ended. But I put a ad on LinkedIn for an assistant to help with Turf Ninjas operations in Calgary. We had the turf business up and running and in Edmonton, and we had the gym that had opened up in Calgary. So we were wanting to expand the turf business down there. And Paul just connected. He saw the post on LinkedIn. I was sharing what I was doing online. He saw the post and he just reached out to me directly and said, "Hey, Tim, yeah, I have a little bit of capacity in my schedule." Paul's an entrepreneur. He's working on his own business, but he had some capacity in his schedule. He knows me. Him and I had always really connected, and said, "Hey, can I help?" And so he actually helped me get the Turf Ninjas business going in Calgary. And during that time, he started telling me, I started learning a little bit more about his experience with camp programming and youth programming in the basketball world and his kind of sport management experience. And this is just as we were getting Fits at Calgary going down there. And so we brought, after kind of turf got going, he came on to the Fitset business and really was the guy that helped build the core team in Calgary and was our general manager in Calgary during that first year and a half getting it off the ground.
I love
So
it.
just the connections, just by being able to let people know what you're up to and throw what you need into the universe. I've found that's one example of just how things will come together.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely say the same thing to people, and I like when I'm able to kind of give people case studies of it happening, because like it's one thing for me to be like, oh yeah, try to nurture your old connections, tell people about your goals, enroll people in what your mission is, because you never know what'll happen. But when I can show them like evidence of something kind of transpiring over the years and like how it happened, it just kind of makes it a lot easier for people to be optimistic and for people to be kind of like innovators and problem solvers, rather than kind of like looking at situations and thinking like I'm doomed, it's over, I'm destined for a tough life because I failed. Like I think we need to have like these roadblocks and these failures and these ebbs and flows in our yearly revenue or our client books or whatever it is that we're looking at, because without that we lose out on the lessons. And so to be more direct, what would you say have been maybe like the top 2 lessons that you've learned in like this span of time, the last like 7 years or so?
I would say one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is to trust your gut. There's, especially when it comes to leadership and building a team, I really care about people. I really want the company to succeed. And especially in the early days, I really felt so grateful that people had chose to come and spend their time at FitSet Ninja and work with FitSet Ninja and help me move my vision ahead and choose FitSet Ninja as a place for them to work. And to a point where there were times where in my gut, I could tell that it just wasn't the right fit. It wasn't the right person. They didn't they weren't able to do the thing. And several times I wanted to believe that I could fix it, that I could coach them through it, that I could make it work. And also that I had just like a fear of hurting them.
Mm-hmm.
If they've chose to help me build my business, I should be grateful. And oh man, I gotta let them help me, and we'll figure it out. Where in my gut I knew, and that's been a feeling that I've had to harness a lot better, because we have over 100 people in the company right now, and we try and pick the ones that fit our values and culture. But sometimes there's people that just don't fit, and really being able to trust my gut when there isn't a culture fit, and knowing that, hey, it's probably the best, not just for me and for FitSet, but for them as well, to end the relationship as soon as possible so they can find what is right for them, and we can have the right person on our team. So
Definitely.
that's a big lesson. That's one example of trusting your gut, kind of on like the people and team side of things. But the other lesson is really to be patient. I've been working on this now for 11 years, 2014 when I started FitSet Pass. And there's so many times where it has just been slow, and there's a downward trench, and we're having to dig our way out of it. And there's a lot of times where it's just like, what? Oh, this is painful. And there are other opportunities. There are things that I could have done or thrown in the towel. But just being patient and knowing that in any business, there's downtime, there's grinding, there's this you need to endure over a really long period of time to see the upside. And that's something that I've really taken to heart. And no matter what the size of the business, there's always challenge, and just being okay with that, and being able to be comfortable with discomfort.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's something that I've definitely realized is just like part of the identity of like kind of working for yourself, whether it be contracting for people or having your own business, etc. Is just that letting discomfort be like when you're in your element. Like it's like, okay, we're not super comfy, but now what are we gonna do? Like, what are we gonna do with this situation here? And like kind of using that as like a stepping stone towards something really big. But something that comes up a lot for people is kind of like that mindset. And I'll give kind of an example that'll be hopefully tangible, not only to you, but to some of maybe the coaches who are listening, where it's like somebody can come up with a business concept and it's like bulletproof. Like there's nothing that could take it down. Nobody could be like, you didn't give me what I paid for, kind of thing. It could be something along the lines of online coaching, and it's based mostly around that accountability. So the person gets a text from the person every day, and they're getting the accountability that they paid for. But that coach is going to doubt themselves because they're thinking like, oh, there's so many other coaches, there's so many other this, there's so many other that. So you have this business model that serves either people looking to outfit or retrofit like their personal private gym space, or maybe doing some landscaping. And then you have this business model that serves like youth, schools, adults, all kinds of people. And there may be times when you're like, oh, but like, why me? It just should be some other company, or just like maybe you're kind of getting in your own head. Now the question time is that do you ever encounter this? And if you do, how do you pull yourself out?
All the time, Chris. All the time. There's always challenges, and the bigger that the company has grown, um, the more there is misalignment with customers, with staff members, where they just don't see things the same way that I do. And that is tough. That is tough, especially getting criticism from, a customer about how we run our business, and disagreeing. That for me is still a challenge, is taking these things personally when people disagree with the business decisions that I make in the company, that I know in my heart are right, are the best decision for the people that work here, that is the best decision for our customers, and it is the best decision to actually move this company closer towards our ultimate vision of being right across Canada and being the pioneer of this sport in Canada. It really, it sometimes hurts when people have friction with that,
Mm-hmm.
staff or customers. And it is something that I don't really know what the answer is to it, other than just I wish I could just deflect, not care at all about what other people think. It's something I'm working on. It's something that I think about often. It's like, okay, you know what, I deep down know what I want, and know my truth, and need to like go all in on my beliefs. I'm open to feedback. I'm really trying to build self-awareness. But yeah, sometimes I just go through the feels. I feel
Yeah.
it, I feel it, and then it passes, and I continue on. And I think over time, it's getting better.
Yeah. I mean, that a lot of people can put themselves in your shoes there, and they might even like use examples that are more like social media based, or maybe they're thinking about like interactions that they had with like one person, but it felt like it was like 100 people. Um, and something that sort of comes to mind that kind of coincides with building a team is, as you are thinking about the direction that you want to go, and as you're thinking about assembling all the people that are going to work on your team in alignment with your goals, what are the things that you've learned to do that you've noticed brings out the best in people, even if you didn't expect the best to come from what you did?
Yeah, great question, Chris. One of the things that I've learned that really helps attract the right type of people, and helps me work with people that want to work with Fitset Ninja, or even just be part of this community, is really consistently sharing the vision of where we want to go, and what we stand for, and why we do what we do. And it's something that I didn't do often in the early days because I wasn't really clear. I knew that the company should have a mission and a vision and a long-term plan, but in the early stages, realistically, I was just trying to stay in business and provide for my family.
Mm-hmm.
It took some time to crystallize really where we were going and what we stood for and understand the impact that we're making on people. So what we do now is every quarter, um, with my leadership team, we do a strategic planning session. And part of that planning session is reviewing our 10-year vision, reviewing our 3-year outlook, and making sure that there's still alignment on that. And that still the direction that we want to go, and reviewing what we stand for. So our core values, what the company is all about. And we go and we work on the plan, what we're going to do in the next year, what we're going to do in the next 3 months, what are the objectives, da, da, da. And then after that, we have an all hands meeting where we share that vision with the entire team. We tell them where we're going. We share wins. So all of the things that we've done in the last quarter that demonstrate why we exist, all the success stories, all the share messages that have came in from customers about how we positively impacted their lives. And we repeat the values for the people that have been here for a while, but for the new people as well. And we've developed, over the last 3 years, we've developed this quarterly rhythm where every quarter we meet as a leadership team, we talk about that stuff, we repeat it. Sometimes it's repetitive, but it is always reconnecting. It always helps us realign and just reconnect on like where we're going, why we're doing this thing, and what we really stand for. Because in the day-to-day, in the thick of it, and the getting the feedback, people coming and going, and sometimes that gets put on the back burner. So yeah, that's something that's really kind of helped me get the best out of the people that are working here, and really, yeah, attract the people that want to be here and want to be a part of this, and repel the people that don't.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that can be taken away from that, even for somebody working independently, because like for me, I almost have like a system of values that people can kind of pick up on when they listen to my podcast or when they see like what I post about or what I talk about or how I show up. And it can sometimes be generalized or misinterpreted, but generally people get it right. And in setting up that way, that's oftentimes how I find the people that I work best with, whether it be like I'm helping them with like business stuff or helping them with training stuff. Like it could be I could help them with their website or podcast or whatever. But then you talked about goals. And it's interesting because for many years, I've asked all kinds of people if they have a 5-year plan or if they have like some goals set in mind. And I haven't taken the data specifically, but I would say more than half people are like, yeah, I don't really set goals. And I've been doing this podcast for a while now. So I can say that the people who didn't really set goals didn't progress in the space that they dwelled in. And that's not a bad thing. But if it was their goal to progress in one space, it probably would have benefited them to have set those goals, even if it feels silly, even if it makes them uncomfortable, even if they're like self-conscious about, oh, did I really say I wanted to do that in 10 years? Because I think not only does it keep a person focused on like the compound effect of their daily actions, but it also opens them up to the opportunities that could present themselves when it comes to collaborative efforts to get to that goal faster. Um, And it's just something that I used to be kind of like, oh, you can set goals, don't set goals, doesn't matter to me. But now, like, I'm 33, I'm getting a little bit wiser, a little bit more bold, and I think it's important for people to set goals, whether it's like personal goals, professional goals, etc. But then that tangent aside, I notice when people are kind of like enrolling others, building other leaders, stuff like that. One of the biggest sparks that I see is when you witness somebody like take ownership of something, like somebody who isn't the business owner, who's working with the business owner, who's acting as if they own the business because they take so much pride in something in the business that they're doing. And they've actually like kind of, if there was to be a standard operating procedure, that person would know it better than anybody else in such a way that they could teach it to other people. Now, when I talk about a person like that, does anybody that you've crossed paths with ring a bell? Are you familiar with anybody that kind of like has occupied your space like that?
Definitely. Several.
Sweet. So tell me a little bit of a story about like how you witnessed that in action of somebody just acting like they own the business almost more passionately than you did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has came about. I wasn't always able to find those people. This wasn't natural where people will come in and really take ownership and really invest themselves fully in my vision, in my business. And the the game changer on that was really understanding what that person's dreams and goals were. Really having a conversation to understand, where do you want to be in 5 years? What is your personal vision? Where do you want to live? What type of money do you want to make? What type of responsibility do you want to have? What do you want your job title to be? And at FitSet Ninja, there's several people that FitSet Ninja isn't the end goal. They're here um, because this is a job that they're doing while they're in university to become a teacher or a physiotherapist, or others, they're just starting their career and they're not sure what their future career goals are. And there are other people that have a lot of clarity around where they want to be in 5 years, the type of money they want to make, where they want to live, what their family looks like. And so by really understanding what these people want and making a real commitment that through their employment at FitSet Ninja, I can get them what they want. I can get them that type of responsibility. They might have to do some real work and educate themselves and train themselves, and they're not just going to get it. But if I can show a path that they can achieve their goals through their work with me at FitSet Ninja, those are the people that are all in. Those are the people that treat this just like their own, because it is their own. It's their own goals that they're going to achieve, and this is just a vehicle for it.
I think that's an important distinction for people to kind of hear because that's something that's come up when I've been onboarded into different companies working as a coach or a consultant and stuff. Where I've had the most like mutual success where the other business benefited, I benefited, was when they were aware of like all of my big, hairy, audacious goals. Even if it meant that I was going to eventually exit, they were comfortable with that because they knew that in knowing where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do, they could get the best out of me. And then I was always like super open and transparent that like if they could continue to present opportunities to me that were more enticing than what my goal was, I'd of course stay. And some people, well, a lot of people, when I did my best work, were able to kind of see that as like, okay, I'll take that challenge kind of thing. Like, because at the end of the day, whether you're a business owner with a team or whether you're an individual who just works with a bunch of different people in a bunch of different capacities, you can't do it alone. Like you're going to have to be on a team, whether formally or informally, because doing it alone, you won't get anywhere, but doing it with a team or collaborating with people, you can almost speed up your progress. And that's kind of the cool thing about like the ups and downs that we see with revenue, with motivation, with all these things. Like we will probably fall down, but it doesn't necessarily take us an eternity to bounce back up. Like sometimes the comeback is very quick, or sometimes just through one connection, it's like we got a rocket booster. So on that note, have you come across any connections in your time that felt like they just gave you a jetpack and then you were just ready to launch?
Yes, definitely. And it often comes like you're saying, like um you can be in it and feel like the sky is falling. I have an example in our Calgary location. Getting Calgary up and running was tricky. It was our first real expansion. We were building a team in Calgary. I was here in Edmonton. I didn't have a partner down in Calgary, so it was really just like, yeah, we were just kind of getting things off the ground. And one of our key guys gave his notice, and this was in like a really busy season, and a lot of the team really looked up to this guy, and I could tell everyone was scared, like, oh man, Nate's gone, what are we gonna do? And I was like, oh man, like the timing couldn't be worse for this. How is this happening right now? And that low point, we put up a job description, we hired someone for his position who has now become the the leader in Calgary. She's been the person that has really pulled together a team around her and has just injected this um, fresh, fun, positive energy, progressive energy into Fitset Ninja Calgary, and it came on the backside of this, feeling that, oh man, this is a big downer.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a ton of examples and things that I can think of where, okay, something seems really bad and the emotions are high and it's like the sky is falling, but
Yeah.
those are really just a precursor to something so much better happening.
Yeah.
And I think just being open to those things and having the mindset that, like, yeah, one connection, one relationship, one new thing coming into your life can completely change the trajectory of something, is really powerful.
That's I couldn't agree more. And there's sort of like a little side note that I wanted to add in before my next question for you. But the side note is that like I've just experienced so much in my career in this period of time that I think people need to sort of like understand the lessons that I've learned, because I did some social media contracting for a business and then I parted ways. But I didn't want to go about it in a way that was like hurtful or malicious. So I was very careful to I tried to time it during a slow point so that it would be more of a benefit than like a deficit or a detriment. And then there's a lot of things that I just like services that I comped to make the exit a lot smoother. And I think it's really important for people to understand that little distinction. Like if they are finding themselves as the person who is the part of a business, they have a power where they can make their exit much smoother. And a lot of people, they'll think that when people exit, they're just like, see ya. And that's all they did. But there's a lot of ways that we can kind of like make it easier on the business owner. And like in another instance, I got the opportunity to work with my friend out of New York for about 3.5 years. And I exited that business. And again, I noticed that there was a time when there was so much that could probably be delegated away from me. And there was things that I could do, but I felt that my zone of genius was in other areas. And I really started to notice that if I put myself in an uncomfortable position, but then freed up them to have their resources that they were spending on me to put in other places, in the long run, we'd both probably benefit. It would just suck for a little bit. We'd both be kind of sad, and we both have to kind of like sort out some things. But it's just, if anybody listens to this podcast to get some kind of like clues for how to get to those next steps, um, not only can they get the perspective from you as like the leader, the owner, the person hiring people, but then I just wanted to also offer my perspective as person who has contracted for people, and how just as a business owner would want to be kind to the people that they employ, the person contracting or the employee has an opportunities to set themselves apart in how they exit their work with somebody. And it's just all we ever hear about is somebody being like, peace, and they're out. And it's cool. They look like a badass. And it's like, yeah, and then look what they did after. But if we just kind of like breathe a little bit, slow things down, kind of look at the whole situation and how it could transpire afterwards, because I have no doubt, like these connections that I have, I will probably circle back to them years from now, either for like a testimonial or referral or maybe a future collaboration. And so those are still very important connections, and they're still very important friends to me. And whenever I say goodbye to a business or something, like they're never like necessarily relieved. There's usually some tension, but I just think it's important to make it easier on businesses, especially if you want to go the long run, especially if you have 10-year goals. Now that I've kind of taken over the podcast from you, I have my next question for you. All this stuff, all these decisions, this life stuff, the personal roles that you carry as like a family member, a father, a husband, all these things, um, they can add up a lot of like stress that you feel in your body with like muscle tightness, or maybe just like trouble sleeping or things like that. Or maybe you're just like cool, easy breezy, you never feel that stuff. But if you do feel that stuff, like the stress in your body, one, how do you identify it? Two, what do you do about it? And three, what have you learned about your body?
Yeah. Um, yeah, the stress in my body. I mean, the one thing that I just held on to so strongly and consistently over the last 15 years is my physical fitness. It's something that I don't let drop. Um, there's times where I'll sometimes let my nutrition drop a little bit, but I don't let my physical fitness drop. And every year it's always a little bit better, a little bit better. I always never gonna let it go down, or I mean, as far as much as I can control, I want it to improve. And so that's really helped. I don't feel, if I'm feeling run down physically, it's often because of my training. And I'll I'll book time. I'll get a massage. I'll go to a physiotherapist, get dry needled, and really do that type of rehab to just make sure that my body's performing. And I mean, it's the biggest hack you can get is
Mm-hmm.
just active regularly. I try to live by the mantra of sweat every day. So no matter what, I'm getting out and moving my body. It's so easy when there's like, oh, you should take a rest day, or working out 4 times a week or 5 times a week or 6 times a week, that it just, for me, it leaves a decision on the table where, you know what, I don't feel like it, maybe I'll take a rest today. Where the mindset of like sweating every day, doing something to move your body, has helped me maintain that consistency. And hey, I'm not perfect. There's days where I don't, but I try my best to stay consistent to that, like sweat every day. No matter what, I'm going to move my body, even if it's just like a short jog or a walk or a stretch out or a roll out or something like that. That's
Awesome.
been key.
I mean, that is an important distinction to call out. But first, I want to see, like, let's say there was like a major week where there's a lot of pressure on. I assume you track like your training volume to some degree, like sets times reps times load or something like that. Do you ever notice training volume fluctuate based on like work demand, even if it's all mental load?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And I
I
think like for you to have noticed that is important for people to hear, because sometimes like they forget to factor in that like training every day doesn't mean training the exact same volume every day. Like sometimes the volume can dip down, but you can still show up to train. But for yourself, you kind of started talking about what you sort of experienced with it. So what can you share about times when your training volume has kind of dipped or things that you've noticed?
um that I just want to show up. And sometimes I'm just all right with just, hey, as long as I'm out there and I'm showing up, I don't need to push it to the max every time. If my body's beaten down and I'm sore, um, yeah, maybe I'm just going to do something to help. Maybe I'm just going to spend half an hour um, with my wife watching a show, but I got my roller and my lacrosse ball and I'm, rolling out my entire body and stretching out for an hour.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, sometimes the hardest part is just to like show up and just like start, do that first 10 minutes. And then every single time when I'm done or when I'm, through those first 10 minutes of getting into it, I'm just like, I'm glad I did this. There's no workout I've ever done where I'm like, you know what, I wish I just didn't do it. I wish I kind of gave in when I thought I didn't want to do it.
I mean, even times when I've gone to jujitsu and like had a pretty brutal injury or something, like I've had one time where I almost bit through my lip, another time where I think I cracked a rib or something. I don't look back and think I wish I didn't go that day, which is obscure. There's lots of times when I'm like, this is probably one of the most like brutal fitness modalities I could have chosen, and maybe I'll choose a different one. But I've never had gone to jujitsu and thought I wish I hadn't. It's always those times that I complete that loop. I'm like, yeah, that's good. And then as as time moves on and as I notice that like my schedule changes and gets a little bit more constrained, I have to choose different items. Sometimes it's like quick hour on treadmill or something. I guess it's not quick, but it's an hour on the treadmill or 10 minutes on the echo bike or just a little home circuit or a little workout at Planet Fitness or something. Like just make something work with life. But I think we've gone over a lot of like good topics. We've kind of filled people in on the gaps. I'm confident this won't be the last time we hop on a podcast together. Now, I want to ask you a question that I've actually reintroduced into the rotation of the podcast, and it's one I've asked you before. So maybe you'll have some fresh advice this time. If you were to give a person one piece of advice on how to live their life to the fullest in the most authentic way, what would that piece of advice be?
What's coming through right now is kind of related to the conversation we were just having about, just showing up to the workout, even when you don't want to do it, but applying that to all aspects of life. I woke up this morning, my alarm went off, and I told myself I was going to get up. So I got up and I went and I made myself a coffee. I sat down and I opened my book and I was this close to say, I just going back to bed. And I just held on. And once I got into it, I got some stuff done that I wanted to do. I was just so glad that I did it. And I just have so many examples and so many times where I've done that and I just feel so much more confident in myself. I feel so much better. And there's so many times where I haven't done that, where I haven't shown up and I've lost that confidence and I feel like I've just came back. So um, my advice to those listeners is to just show up to the things that sometimes might not want to do or might feel scary or is going to be painful or is going to be a drag. To pull up a chair, to start, to put on your shoes, to go talk to that person, to have that conversation that you don't want to have, to do that thing that's might feel really scary but you have to do it, to just show up to those things. Because yeah, that's my advice.
It's good advice, and I think it'll serve the people well. So I just want to say thank you again, Tim, for joining me back on the show today.
My pleasure, Chris. Thanks for having me.